My ship has crashed, leaving me stranded on an alien planet that, to my knowledge, was unexplored. As I awake in my life pod and extinguish the fire, I open up my futuristic tablet to assess the damages. What? No edible food on planet? Well, guess I gotta escape this place without eating. Alright, well let's get to it. Now before I can escape, I'm gonna have to cure the most deadly disease in the history of the universe and build an entire rocket ship to blast off into space. But before I can do any of that, we gotta get looted up. And to begin our journey, I wanted to get a scanner. This is probably the single most important thing in the entire game because it allows us to get blueprints that are required to craft almost every item that we're gonna need. Now lucky for me, it's really easy to build, so I made a battery out of acid mushrooms and copper and combine that with titanium to make the scanner. Making some business moves. Now at this point my hunger was already below 50%, and that naturally proposed me with the question, what can I do about the fact that I can't eat? And the answer is nothing. There's no way for me to refill my hunger bar without consuming nutrients of some kind. And that means that once my hunger goes down, all I can do is accept my fate and, well, die. Now the reason this can be challenging is if I'm over 1,000 meters away from my life pod and I die, then I'm gonna end up wasting a bunch of time traveling, and not only that, but I'm gonna lose important items, and I can even lose my vehicles that I spend hours creating because they may end up in a spot that I can't get to. But maybe, just maybe, there's a way to keep myself alive once my hunger has depleted, but I guess we'll have to find out. And now that we have the scanner, let's put it to use. Swimming in Subnautica is very slow, and there are a few ways that we can counteract it, but the best one overall is with the Sea Glide. Now this is the first item that we actually have to scan fragments for and unlock a blueprint in order to craft, but the fragments usually spawn very close to your life pods, so they're not too hard to find. Oh yes, there we go, there's our second one. Boom! We can already go make our Sea Glide. One thing I absolutely love about this game is that you can pin your recipe to the top right of your screen, so you always have a list of the materials that you need. And with that list, I began searching. The only two things I actually had to go out and get were creepvine seeds to make lubricant and some acid mushrooms to make batteries. The only other material that was used to make the Sea Glide was copper, which I already had plenty of. And there we go, Sea Glide. I'm about to be a speed demon. I also made a repair tool that I used to spruce up my life pod, and it gave me access to a radio and a medkit fabricator. That same radio played me a message saying that there'd be a rescue team coming for me in 99999 hours, which obviously gave me a lot of hope. And now I wanted to get my first vehicle, which was the Sea Moth. But I'm gonna need to dive relatively deep down to be able to get it, and so I wanted to upgrade my oxygen tank first. I started by making a standard O2 tank out of 3 titanium, which gave me 75 oxygen points. I then upgraded to a high capacity O2 tank and earned myself 135 total oxygen, which was gonna be very helpful. Now before I can go out and get the fragments for the Sea Moth, I first have to craft the mobile vehicle bay. This is basically a fabricator like I've been using to craft everything else, but for vehicles. It requires 3 fragments in order to get the blueprints, and I already had 1, so I only had 2 left to get. I think the best place to find them is in the creepvine forest in these white boxes. They're pretty common, so they're not too hard to find at all. After getting my third and final fragment, I began swimming back to my life pod and realized that my hunger was flashing red. This means that death is on my doorstep in the form of starvation, so I quickly emptied all my valuable items into the storage container so I wouldn't lose them. I also made sure to climb up on top of my life pod and go out with the beautiful view of the Aurora, and that marks death number 1 to hunger. But now I'm back, and it's time to keep going for the mobile vehicle bay. I started off by gathering random resources that I knew I would need, like copper, titanium, and creepvine seeds. I then started crafting up all the individual components that I would need to make the mobile vehicle bay until I finally had them all done. And there we go, mobile vehicle bay. This thing is gonna be like absolutely huge for our progression. And now I can finally go out and get the Sea Moth fragments. In my opinion, the best place to get them is in the grassy plateaus biome that's very, very close to the life pod. Now there are tons of these fragments that are just kind of dotted around the whole area, so I was able to find all 3 of them within like 5 minutes. Now this thing does require a lot of items to build, but the good thing was that I had a good portion of it already in my storage container. The only things I really had to get were copper, titanium, and acid mushrooms to make the titanium ingot and some batteries. And Bladoosh. Look at her in all her beauty. Look at that. Make a grown man cry. We're gonna go on so many adventures together. We're gonna go to so many cool places, like all of these different life pods that we have to explore. It's gonna be so much fun. And I was really glad that we got that all done in time because my hunger was already flashing red once again. And so I went to put my items into my container to make sure I didn't lose them when I realized that I was out of storage, which was gonna be a problem. But there is one way we can fix this. Building a base. You see, because with a base comes space bars, and we can use that space and fill it up with a bunch of storage containers. So after facing the Grim Reaper once again for death number 2, I made a habitat builder. I started off the base by making a regular compartment and added a hatch and some solar panels to it. Now this space was relatively small, so I wanted to make what was called a multi-purpose room. It's basically just a large room with a bunch of walls on it that we can line with storage containers or beds or pretty much whatever we want to put in there. But the thing is that we actually have to scan one of these in order to unlock the blueprint. Now there's a huge positive to this. We can actually knock out 2 birds with 1 stone here. There's a cave that has a multi-purpose room in it and the fragment for a better oxygen tank, and so if we get them both, then that's a huge upgrade. Hello. Now this place looks really cool, but it's kind of dangerous because of those things right there, those snake things, and they will come after me. So we need to lower ourselves down a little bit and then make sure we don't hit the crush tab. Dude, he's right there. I need to go down there to that base, and he's just, oh my gosh. We're gonna make a break for it. Go. I need to make sure I don't drown though. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, he's right there. He's literally right there. He's literally right there. He's literally right there. He's literally right there. Go, 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 go. We're in here for business. We're not picking up no PDAs or anything. I can't get through. I want this right here, which should be, yep, ultra high capacity tank. And then I want this multi-purpose room. Come on, please, 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 please. There we go. And then I want this bed. That way we can skip through night. We never have to deal with the horrifying darkness. We have 30 seconds of oxygen. I don't know where they are. 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 I'm going. Okay, there's none near me. There's none near me. I don't think, right? Okay, I think I'm safe. Oh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh. And after somehow making out of that alive, I built a multi-purpose room. I also put in a locker so that I could store some of the items that were still in my inventory, but before I could do anything else, this happened. Jesus, dude! Oh my gosh. Dude, that explosion is always cool every single time. Well, you know what that means. Now we have a radiation suit that we can build, and we can actually go inside of the Aurora and get a bunch of different things. And after that crazy explosion, I added the bed to my room as well as a fabricator. That way I wouldn't have to go up to the life pod as much. Now I was at a point that I like to call the blueprint arc. And it's called that because almost everything we need to progress are things that we need to scan fragments for to unlock. And so I spent some time going through a couple of shipwrecks until I got the fragments for 2 very important items, the laser cutter and the modification station. Now to craft a laser cutter, I need diamonds. And the best place to get them is on a giant hillside near the mushroom biome. Now the thing is that this hillside is very close to the Aurora, and because of the explosion, there's tons of radiation. And so before I could get the diamonds, I needed to make a radiation suit, but I was gonna have to do it anyway, so this just saved time. After that, I was able to get the diamonds that I needed, and I stayed behind to get even more resources because I knew that a lot of this would probably be important later on. While roaming around, I found a fragment for the Cyclops, which is a giant submarine that is going to be essential to building the rocket that we need to escape. This thing requires 9 fragments to unlock the blueprint, and a lot of these are in very dangerous areas, but we're gonna have to go there anyways at some point. After crafting the laser cutter, I then wanted to make the modification station. This thing is gonna be super important to upgrading our vehicles so that we can go deeper with them and even give them other modifiers. My first order of business with this was to craft the ultra high capacity tank, giving me 225 oxygen. This is the absolute best tank that you can get in the entire game, so we're good on that front. And now that I had the laser cutter, I wanted to go explore some more wrecks. Because with it, you can cut open these doors with the circular burn marks on them and unlock areas that usually you wouldn't be able to get to. And at this particular wreck, I found the blueprint for a vehicle upgrade console, some moonpool fragments, and even a time capsule that gave me nickel ore, which is a very rare item. And it also had an image in it of the scary cave that we went to earlier with the snakes and a message under it that I obviously can't read, but if somebody wants to translate, feel free. At the second wreck, I managed to find the remaining fragments for both the Cyclops hull and the Cyclops bridge, which means that I have 2 out of the 3 compartments done with only the engine remaining. I also came across our first prawn suit fragment, and when I went to search outside for more stuff, I bumped into a pretty cool creature for the first time. Whoa! What are you? Oh yeah, that's a warper. That's a warper. Okay, they don't hurt me yet, and I think that's because I haven't been infected by the virus. They don't like kill you unless you're infected. Dude, you're sick. The noises they make, the noises in this game overall are just impeccable. After I finished exploring that wreck, I started to head home because my hunger was depleting, but I wasn't able to make it in time and I died, making for death number 5 to hunger. Now I thought that I lost a bunch of items, including that nickel ore, so I was really upset, but when I went to retrieve my sea moth, I actually saw all the items in my inventory just floating in the water. Now we're not going to be able to get our stuff back every single time because it does despawn, but in this very niche scenario, we got pretty lucky. There were 2 more wrecks that I wanted to explore, and the first one didn't have much in it besides the propulsion cannon. Now the propulsion cannon is really important, but it's not as important as some other things that I was looking for. That being the engine fragments for the Cyclops, which I found at the very next shipwreck. We can build the Cyclops! Now from what I know, the spawn place that I got for them is one of the best in the game because it's not that dangerous. There are tons of other areas that I could have died multiple times in trying to get those fragments, but I got really lucky and they were in a pretty tame biome. So at this point, there are only really 3 things that I need to get fragments for. That being the prawn suit drill arm, and the prawn suit grapple arm. But we can't do any of that until we explore the Aurora. And that's exactly what I want to do, but first I have to craft the propulsion cannon. It's a tool that we can use to move debris around, and we're going to need it in order to enter the Aurora. But that didn't take very long because all the resources I needed to make it were pretty much at my disposal. But now I was ready to head out. And so I made my way over to the Aurora when I started hearing some menacing roars. This area is kind of scary. I just heard something roar. Is that a Reaper? Please tell me that's not a Reaper. I don't want to die. I managed to make it past all the terrifying sounds and up onto what I'm going to call the Aurora Beach. I then moved all the debris out of the doorway with the propulsion cannon and put out the fire that was in front of the next doorway. After exploring a little further, I came across a large room that had prawn suit fragments hanging from the ceiling, and so very quickly I was able to get my final 2 that I needed. I continued searching through the Aurora until I came across the captain's quarters that needed a code to open, but I just googled it. And when I went inside, I interacted with this bright blue data terminal and it gave me the blueprint for the Neptune escape rocket. But there's still 2 more things that we need to do here. First, I made my way to the Aurora's drive core room and repaired all the holes that were in it. This completely fixed all of the radiation, so I would no longer need the radiation suit when I go near the ship. But this was kind of annoying to do because these little worm things kept biting on my arm and I really thought that I was gonna die. After I finished, I made my way to the Seamoth Bay where I got a free Mark 1 depth module for my Seamoth, and that would allow it to go an extra 100 meters below the surface before it started to take damage. The sad thing is that I literally right after died of hunger and completely lost the free depth module that I was just given. And upon returning back to base, I now had to figure out some way to get it back. And the only way I can do that is by creating a moon pool and adding a vehicle upgrade console to it. And to start off, I went and got some creepvine seeds, that way I could make lubricant, and while searching around, I found a bunch of stalker teeth on the ground. I picked them up just in case they were important because I didn't know if they would be difficult to get later. But after searching for a little while longer, I was able to get all the titanium that I needed to fully craft the moon pool. One of the coolest things about it is that you can actually store your Seamoth and prawn suit inside, and it both repairs and recharges it while it's docked. I then added in a vehicle upgrade console, and it comes with a fabricator that I can use to make a new Mark 1 depth module for my Seamoth, but there's no time for that now. You might have noticed that there has been a countdown timer on my screen for some time. Apparently this guy on the other side of space received signal that the Aurora had crashed and he was coming to save me. I wonder how this is gonna go. So there's a giant gun on the planet. Yes, there is, and it's not just a giant gun, it's an entire alien base. So I put in this purple tablet I found off the ground into this console, and it opened up the door for me. Upon further exploration, I found things that looked like emerald blocks from Minecraft, but in this game they were called ion cubes. And when I explored even further, I found the control center. In the middle was this weird device, and when I interacted with it, it poked me in the arm with a giant needle. And right before I was killed off by starvation, the announcer read a message saying, warning, infected individuals may not disable the weapon, this planet is under quarantine. And that pretty much explains everything. This deadly disease ravaged the whole planet, and the intelligent life that used to live here locked everything down, creating this gun to stop anything from coming in and anything from going out. This is why the rescue ship was shot down, and same with the Aurora. So now I must find a cure to this disease so I can disable the weapon and escape in my rocket without getting shot out of the sky. But for now, we're back to upgrading the Seamoth. There are 3 total depth module upgrades that we can get, and I wanted to go ahead and grind them all out so we could go deeper when exploring. And the first depth module was super easy to build because it was only 1 titanium ingot and 2 glass. Now the second depth module was considerably more pricey, with 2 items that I am yet to craft in this game. And out of the 2, I wanted to start off with the enameled glass. You remember the stalker teeth I found earlier? Yeah, they're already coming in handy because when you combine one of those with 1 piece of regular glass, it gives you enameled glass. And that only leaves 1 more item that we have to get, and it's called magnetite, and you won't believe where we have to go to get it. Yup. We're back. Okay, so from what I know, the magnetite can be found down here on the floor, and I don't think they come from the shell outcrops, although I am gonna break those just to get the resources. I think that they literally just spawn on the ground. Oh, is that one? Yes. Oh! 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 Things turn good and then really bad really quick. Yes, I see it. I see it. I see it. That's the last one I need. And with that, I now have the depth module Mark II for the Seamoth, giving me a crush depth of 500 meters. And now finally on to depth module Mark III, which is the final one. This one required 2 items for me to get. The first one being the plasteel ingot, and it was really easy. I had pretty much everything I needed for it at my disposal. And the second item was 3 rubies. I had actually come across some earlier, so I knew exactly where to go to get them. LifePod 19 is in this giant hole in the ground, and on the walls you can find both rubies and shell outcrops as well as some other items. So I made sure to fill my pockets up as much as I could, that way if I needed more in the future I would have it. And at that I had everything I needed, so I returned home to craft the depth module Mark III, which gave me a crush depth of 900 meters. But as deep as that is, it's not deep enough for us to beat the game. So we're still gonna need the fully upgraded prawn suit, and to start I wanted to get the drill arm and the grapple arm fragments. Okay, so the wreck that we need to go to is down here, and this area is really scary because there are warpers, but hopefully nothing tries to kill me over here and we can search through this wreck. Oh! 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 Okay, I need to figure out how to get in. I need to figure out how to get in. Oh, right here, right here. Oh my gosh, that was horrifying. If I scream like a little girl, don't make fun of me, please. This game may not look scary, but believe me, it is nightmare fuel. Yes, prawn suit grappling arm. I think we need 2. Now, before finishing up searching the wreck, I went back home because my hunger was depleting and I didn't want to lose any of the items I had on me. But after being resurrected, I headed back where I was able to find all of the fragments for both the drill arm and the grapple arm. And now that I had both of those, it was time to build the prawn suit. Now, one of the items I needed for it was aerogel, and you make that with a ruby and a gel sack. Now, I had the rubies, but the gel sacks were a different story because I only had 1. And I could have gone out and just gathered more, but I thought it would be smarter if I plant them so that I would have an unlimited supply. But in order to do that, I need a grow bed, and so I went to a nearby island where I scanned one, went back home, planted the gel sacks, and while they grew, I went and got the other items for the prawn suit. The thing that took me the longest out of all of them was just getting all the titanium for the plasteel ingots, and everything else I had in my storage already. Now, one thing that struck me as weird is that the prawn suit isn't that much bigger than the Seamoth, but it costs so much more resources to make. Boom! I'm assembling the Avengers, and I'm one of them. Oh yeah. Now this is what artillery is really about. Just like the Seamoth, the prawn suit has depth modules, and the first one requires us to get nickel ore. The thing is that this item is only found in the Lost River, which is 900 meters below the surface. And although I was petrified, I still had to make my dive into the abyss. We gotta go down here in this horrifying trench. I really don't want to do this. I mean, tell me that that does not look horrifying. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. We're just gonna go. We're gonna go. I know the direction we have to go, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna push on through. I'm not scared. I'm not scared at all. I'm not terrified. This is great. I love this. I think we're relatively safe. Oh, there's that right there is a crab squid. Now, they are my favorite creature in this game because of the noises that they make, and I would go near it so that we can listen, but I don't want to die. No, he disabled me. Drive. Oh! Get away, 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 get away. I thought I was safe. I thought I was safe. And soon after that terrifying jump scare, I had made it to my destination. I did have to abandon my sea moth because it would start getting crushed once it hit below 900 meters, so I did have to free dive. I searched around here for about 5 minutes just trying to grab as many resources as I could. That way I wouldn't have to come back for a while, but I was able to get all the nickel that I needed and then some. I decided to take a different route out to go back home because I didn't want to have to go back by the crab squids. Now there was a ghost leviathan there, which is like the second or third biggest creature in the entire game, but the area was so big that I was able to keep my distance and not get attacked by it. And once I arrived, I created the depth module, which gave me a new crush depth of 1300 meters. And now naturally it was time for depth module Mark II, but this time I needed a resource called kyanite, a mineral that can only be found at a depth of over 1000 meters below sea level. And so this time my sea moth wasn't gonna cut it, which means I would have to take the prawn suit. Now, no one in their right mind travels in the prawn suit without having the grappling arm, and so my new mission was to get both arms before I went on my mission for the kyanite. The only thing that troubled me with the grappling arm was the benzene, because I had to go back to that really scary trench to get blood oil. But other than that one item, everything else was very easy to craft, and same goes with everything that I needed for the drill arm. But now that I had both of them, it was time to head out on the expedition. But my hunger was currently flashing red, so I knew it would be a bad idea to leave now. While waiting for it to deplete, I put down a counter and then set some of my antiques on top of it, just to give the base a little bit more personality. But after a few minutes, I was ready to go, and currently we are at 11 deaths to hunger so far, and who knows how many more will happen before we're able to beat the game. It took a while, but I finally made it back to where we were before, but the environment quickly turned from a pretty blue to a sinister brownish red. This is the lava zone, and it's one of, if not the most dangerous areas in the entire game. Lucky for me though, I spotted the bright blue kyanite very quickly and went over to drill it out with my drill arm. And the great thing is that the kyanite gets added to the vehicle storage and not to my inventory, so if I was full, it wouldn't really matter. And so I took as many pieces from this deposit as I could and headed back. But we have a huge problem. I am a long way away from home, and my hunger was depleting fast. And if I don't make it out in time, there is a very real possibility that I could lose my prawn suit. And so I raced out as fast as I could, but it eventually became clear that I wasn't gonna make it. And so my new goal became to get as close to the entrance of the Lost River as possible so that I could maybe swim down and retrieve my prawn suit. But soon I was beginning to take damage. Eventually I realized that I had a medkit on me, and so I used it once my health got really low, because although my hunger may be fully down, I don't actually die unless my health also depletes. And so if I use the medkit to keep my health up, then I can also keep my life up. Unfortunately though, this still would not be enough and I would succumb to my starvation, making for death number 12. But it turns out that I was close enough to be able to free dive down and retrieve my prawn suit, which I was very happy about. But now I was back and I could craft the depth module Mark II, and that was the last one for the prawn suit. There are only 2 modules for it. And this gave me a crush depth of 1700 meters. And I will not have to go any deeper than that for the entire game. And with that, it was time to begin our quest to cure the disease. So I packed a bunch of medkits just in case I would need them, because this would be a very long trip and dying of hunger could literally be the end of me. And afterwards I made my way back down to the lava zone and towards the giant lava structure in the middle. Surely there is nothing here that can hurt. Yep, there's an enormous sea dragon, and he's coming straight for me. I was absolutely terrified, and I raced to get inside of this castle because I knew that once I did, he wouldn't be able to follow me. In the middle was this alien base called the thermal plant, and inside I found a blue tablet that I would later use to open up the alien containment facility so that I could cure the disease. And after a little bit, I booked it out of there. And eventually I made my way to this very large hole in the ground that I jumped down, and at that I had officially entered the active lava zone where there was yet another sea dragon. But you guessed it, I scurried, absolutely skedaddled my way into that facility so that he would not eat me alive. As I got up inside of the building, I had one goal in mind. There are a bunch of rooms that stretch out around this place, and each one contains a warp gate. This is a portal that will take me to a certain area on the map. I found one that went out to the mushroom forest, and the reason I did this is because if I do die of hunger, now that I have this warp gate activated, I can just go through there instead of having to go all the way back to the lava zone. I also had to go back to my base to craft craft another blue tablet that we needed to open the final door, but before I could get to it, I died once again to starvation, making for death number 13. But once I was resurrected, I crafted the blue tablet and headed back. Once I got there, I used the tablet to open up the door, and now is the moment we've all been waiting for. All right, here we go. This is for all the marbles. Where is she? Oh, there she is. Hello, how are ya?
Are you here to play?
Not particularly.
Others came here once. They built these walls.
These walls?
They played alone.
Oh, well, that sucks.
They bored me.
Boring.
Now they're gone. And instead, we have you.
Sounds like you're trying to, like,
We
induct
are
me into a cult.
curious whether you swim with the current or fight against it as they did.
I mean, I prefer to swim with the current because if I fight against it, I'm gonna die. This gargantuan creature is called the Sea Emperor, and she is completely harmless to us. Our task is to hatch her eggs so her babies can come out into the world and release Enzyme 42, the very cure to the virus. Now, you might be asking, if the Sea Emperor had the cure the entire time and she was in captivity, why couldn't the aliens cure the virus? The answer is simple. She chose to keep them away from her eggs because they were trying to force her into giving them up. But in our case, we weren't forcing her to do anything, so she's more than happy to help out. So after she blew the sand out of this warp gate, I received the blueprint for the hatching enzymes. It requires us to get 5 plants throughout the map, and coincidentally, 1 is in this chamber, and the other 4 I get through going through the other warp gates in the facility. The first was a sea crown seed, the next was a piece of the mushroom from one of the mushroom trees, number 3 was part of a common bulb bush, the 4th one was an eye stalk seed, and finally number 5 was the seed from a ghost weed. After getting all 5, I went back to my base to craft the hatching enzyme, died of starvation, and then went back to the Sea Emperor to hatch her eggs. Alright, we're back, and it's time to incubate the eggs. Hatching enzyme activated. They're coming out. They're hatching. Dude, they're so cute. Hello. Aww, look at that. Okay, where's the Enzyme 42? And with that,
Sees the gap.
the virus has been cured. We've done it. This huge civilization of aliens that were far more intelligent than I couldn't do it. I had to be the one to save all the fish. And now, all there's left to do is build the rocket. And that's exactly what I did. Pretty easily, I was able to build the first platform for the Neptune escape rocket, but for all the other layers, it took me a combined 3 hours to finish the whole thing, in which I died to hunger 6 times. Now that whole process was just a bunch of running back and forth, grabbing miscellaneous items and crafting, so I'm not gonna go through all of it because it would just take forever. But now I was ready to launch and escape. Activate elevator. Here we go. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Auxiliary power unit on. Communications array on. Hydraulic systems on. Boot up primary CPU. Bang, bang, and bang. Activate life support system. And finally, prepare the time capsule. Let's go ahead. Let's toss in a laser cutter, scanner. Well, you know, let's just put in all of our tools. There we go. You served me well, but it's time to say goodbye and launch the rockets. Here we go.
Launch in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And there we go! Subnautica without eating, we did it! Let's go! And throughout our game, we died to hunger a total of 20 times. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button.